Hello everyone, this is Decrypt again, and today I'm going to show you how to solve the TryHackMe machine blaster. So I have the machine started up, so let me just go to my folder where I want to save the files. So go home, desktop, TryHackMe. So the very first step is to do a port scan on the system. We use nmap for that. Dash pn to not send detection probes, to dash sv to send version probes, dash sc to use the script, and we're going to save it in an nmap format. So dash o lowercase and uppercase n, we're going to use blaster.thm, and we're going to have the IP of the victim machine there. So the scan is going to take a while, so I have already run it. So let's take a look at the scan results. Okay, as you can see, we have port 80 and port 3389, which is our remote desktop protocol service running on the system. And we also want to actually try and see if we have other ports open. So I have also kickstarted a full port scan on the system. So if you're still wondering why we use dash -pn, so if you just try and ping the system, you will see it's not responding. That's because the system has some kind of mechanisms to not respond to ICMP echo messages, which is a security measure to avoid detection through ping sweeps and all those kinds of stuff. So that's why we don't we want to use the dash -pn here. So let's try just take a look at what's running on port 80. As you can see, we have a Windows machine, so we have an IIS service running on it, and we can try and predict, try to guess some of the directories like admin, login, etc. But it's always best to go about with the full automation. So I'm going to use GoBuster to do the directory brute forcing with URL is http. Okay, and we're going to use the word list that we use as usual, which is the dirbuster word list. And we're going to use the directory list 2.3 medium, which is not too long and not too short. We're going to run it with 50 threads, so -t space 50. We're going to try and brute force for some of the common extensions like PHP, ASP, since it's running a Windows IIS server, ASPX, HTML, and text, maybe XML since this is a Windows machine, and log. We can always come back and run other kinds of brute forcing extensions. So let's save this on a file called gobuster80.log. Okay, so where did we lose? Okay, so we have to put the directory mode enable here because the newer version of GoBuster will have their option. So we can let this scan run and go check on the full port scan which we ran before. And as you can see, it has completed and not found any additional services or ports open. So let's wait for this brute forcing to find some directory. But I already know what's running on it because this machine is actually another version of the machine retro. So we should be having a directory called -retro on it. So if you watch my retro video, you will see some similarities with that and this machine. But we do have a good change on the privilege escalation part. So if you have already watched it, I would suggest you skip over to the privilege escalation. For others, let's go ahead and try and enumerate this web app here. So off the bat, we have some page, and we don't know what is running, and says running by wait. And from the look of it, it looks like a PHP to me. If you're not sure, it's always good to run a scan on that. So let's use GoBuster dir mode -URL and paste and use the same word list that we used before. And let's scan for PHP because WordPress runs PHP. So let it run. As you can see, we have --index.php, which confirms the PHP application. We can also confirm if it's running WordPress by running WordPress scan, but it's better if we first fingerprint the actual web app before running any kind of scans for the particular web application. So as you can see, back to the GoBuster scan, we have the WP content, WP login. So let's try to navigate to that. So by now, we are sure that it's running WordPress, and we already have a user called wait because that's how kind of WordPress works. So you gotta have a valid login, and it's gonna give you the author name as the login name, and it's just pretty straightforward guessing the username there. So we just need the password right now, and there's a popular technique for brute forcing passwords on WordPress, which is the XML RPC or pc.php page. So if you found this file page available, which we have, because it says it accepts only post requests. So since we are getting a get via the browser URL, we are seeing this message. So we have this page. If you find this page, it's a good cue that you can try the brute forcing the login. So I'm going to use some of the tools that I used previously, which is the WordPress brute force scan. So I'm going to go to downloads, tools, and WordPress brute. And I'm going to use the version 2 here. So let's copy that and see what are the options. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it was using Python too. Python. So let's go and look at the options. We need the URL, passwords, and username. So we have the URL already. So let's put that right there. So we got to take the part until where it says retro, and actually retro and XML RPC.php. And we need a path for the passwords. We're going to use the rockq.txt file, which is in user share word list rockq, and we have the username as Wade, and that's it. So another way to make sure that the correct user is, let's see what happened here. XML. Okay, so I made a typo on the URL. So yeah, coming back, another way to make sure that the user is valid on WordPress installation is by going to the WordPress login and first try with some rubbish like some other name that you know won't be existing on the server, and you can see it says invalid username. So when you type Wade, it's gonna say something like the password is not correct for the username Wade. So that confirms the fact that we have a valid user on the application. So let's go. We can do two things right here. One is wait for the brute force to finish, or take a look at the application. I would rather go and take a look of the rest of the page to see if we discover something that's useful to us. So let's go. Usually, if you want to look at some of the blogs like WordPress, you always wanted to look at the posts that are posted by the user in a CTF environment. That could be a clue for us. So let's open all the posts where the user Wade has commented on and take a look one by one. So we don't see anything useful here. So like maybe read some comments. I should be picking up one of the cabinets. You just okay. This is some rubbish. Let's close that. And again, this is not useful. And I'm gonna close this one as well. Before you do all these things, whenever you find a bunch of these lines, it's always good practice just to copy this over and run another tool called cool, which is this, to kind of scrape the words from the page and use that as a password list. So I have covered this already in my retro machine, so please go back and watch that if you want on why we do this and how this works. So I'm going to use potential pass.text. So it's just going to scrape the website and put a bunch of words in there. So that's an example. You would want to do that for all the pages that we just closed as well. So what that buys us is if you don't find any valid passwords for the brute force with this word list here, you can always go and substitute that with this ones that you've just created. So let's take a look on this one. Looks like we have something that's unlike the other pages. And let's go and see. We have something here saying leave myself a note here just in case I forget how to spell it. So it says Parzival. Let's copy that and see if it could be a valid password. It looks like it is. Let's just confirm it. So wait, login, and it's taking its time, but it's a sign that actually the page is loading, which means our password was valid. Let's just wait this out. And as expected, yes, this password is valid. And you could do the shell two ways from here. We could go to the appearance themes editor and okay, understand that. Go to 404 template.php and remove this and put in your favorite PHP reverse shell. I'm going to demonstrate this by just echoing my name here and click on save. Once you've found that it was saved, try and navigate to some directory that you know does not exist on the server. So let's just type something here. And as you can see, it's loading our 404 script, which is the echoing decrypt message. So you can do that your reverse shell from here, or we noted that we have put 3389, which is the RDP for this machine. We can use that. So I'm going to use the RDP this time, and because we have a good graphical interface for our privilege escalation steps. So there's some tool called XRDP that you can use, X-free RDP. Let's just see how to use the command. So we need options and server port. So let's see where we specify the username and password. I guess it should be /u or /user. I hate how difficult they have made this. Yeah, so we have an example, which is great. So let's use this one and paste and modify this for ourselves. And let's take the IP of the machine from here. And I don't care about the resolution now. So let's put in the password, which is the parseval here, and let's use the username Wade and hit enter. Accept the certificate, and we are in as Wade. So that is so cool. We have the user.txt right on our desktop, so that's our user file. So what I'm going to do next is try first run a script that will enumerate the Windows machine for privilege escalation hints and techniques, actually vectors. So I'm going to use a tool called winPEAS. This is the same as linPEAS, but this one is for Windows machine. So if you search winPEAS, you'll come across this one here. So we can use the bat file or the exe, but I'm going to use another file called winPEAS because that I've noticed to have to perform better. So let's take this one here and download. Just copy the link and let's download here and host it, and then copy that from our RDP session using Internet Explorer or something like that. So just go wget this and let's host it on our machine using Python HTTP server. We use Python 3-m for module server. I'm going to serve it on port 8000. So let's just go to our RDP session here on the machine and open the link to our machine. As expected, we don't have because we missed the port number. Okay, so we have the winPEAS any here. Let's just download it and save it. That's fine. Looks like when we downloaded, we actually kind of pulled all this Git stuff along with it, which I didn't intend to do so. So that's fine. Let's go to the downloads directory and execute this file. And open the command from here. And let's execute winPEAS.ini. Off the bat, you see that it's not showing any colors, which makes it difficult for us, kind of go through all this, especially when you see, outputs like this. That's not good for our eyes. Let's go and do what it says to enable the color. So add this rich value. So let's clear it. And paste. So it said open a new session. So let's new command session. So let's close that one and open that again. And let's try and execute the exe again. And this time we have the colors. So let it run, but I'm interested in kind of the very first few information that this has to provide. So before that, let's see what privileges as our user has on this machine. So obviously we are Wade here, and let's do priv. Okay, so looks like we don't have any token privileges like SC impersonate privilege or the SC assign primary token, which if we had, could have leveraged that to do a juicy potato exploit on this, but unfortunately we don't have that on this machine. So that's one of the difference between this machine and retro, and I'm going to show you how to solve this particular machine using its own vulnerability. So as you can see up front, we have a number of CVEs that the script has matched the OS against, and we have potentially POCs for all of that. So I have already done this, but I encourage you to go and take a look at each of these exploits. For example, let's open this one, and maybe not that. Let's open this and just try and read about, in fact, I'm sorry, let's open the last one and try and read about, because I found this to have a good write-up on the actual exploitation. So let's open that. So accept. So let's see. It says it has found privilege escalation via comms local service, and it says allows local unprivileged users to execute on orbit commands as local service user. Okay, the second vulnerability is simple misconfiguration. So let's just confirm what vulnerability we have. It's 1405. And okay, do we have the other one? So looks like we don't have. The second vulnerability is the 1322, which is kind of the main exploit here. So as you can see right off the bat, we can't use. So even if we exploit this one, we will end up being a local service user, and we still have to have an exploit for this to completely exploit the system. So likewise, I encourage you to go and take a look on all of the CVEs. So it's always better to not ignore the kernel exploitation, but always not rely on them as well. It's because you never know when this might be useful to you. So although I have revealed that this machine has a kernel exploitation, let's take a look at the rest of the script and see if we have something potentially useful for us. So scroll down here and it says AV detected, but if you open the machines, and probably it's a Windows machine, so you might have Windows Defender. So let's just search for Defender. So as you can see, we have real-time protection turned on, and it's up and running. So that's another reason we gotta be careful about choosing kernel exploits, because usually the antivirus solutions will have a signature match, which will prevent us from successfully exploiting it. So another reason why we have logged in via RDP instead of doing a remote show via PHP. So if you have all this kind of extra capabilities, it enables you to kind of look at the system via the GUI and take a look at all of these things that I just mentioned. So let's scroll down and we'll see we have permissions on public, default, and our own directory there. And we also have a DLL hijacking on our own binaries that we just put in on this machine. And we also have this one, AWS Light Agent, and it says no code space detected. So if you're aware of how to exploit uncoded service path, you might know that we should be having the service stop and service start privileges on the Light Agent service. If not, we can't really force the service restart after we plant our exploit in one of these directories. So let's move on and see if we have any other writ words here. So uncoded again, path injection. So all this looks good, but as I can say, all I can say is try and go for the easiest one up front, and then go for the other ones, because you really want to be saving time if you're in a exam scenario or something like that. You can always report the machine if you crash the machine, so just take that as a hint, and let's move on. From there we have two local services, And we can also try take a look on what's running, but yeah, just keep moving from here. So it says you should try and search for credentials here. It looks like, potentially useful to us. So let's try and run the service and see. Maybe we need to take a look here at how to exploit it. Let's take a look real quick. Oh, that wasn't quick at all. My gosh. So we have a script, but I'd rather just execute one of these scripts uh, manually on the PowerShell terminal, right? So for example, we have list app pools and this. So let's copy that and execute in PowerShell. As you can see, we have insufficient permissions to actually perform this step. So that right away eliminates the possibility of exploiting this. So let's move on. And also says that we have cookies database, but I could not find Chrome on this machine. So I'm not sure how much it's going to be of use. You can still take a look, but most probably than not, you will only find Wade's credential, which we already have, because this is stored in Wade's app data. So we won't potentially find any passwords that belongs to another user or admin. So let's quickly take a look of what other users are on the system. We have administrator, Wade, and default con guest. Guest is probably disabled. So yeah, so that's why we can't use that. And looking for possible password files. Yep, you can take a look at this and maybe click type and just hit this. Cannot find because of the path having spaces. So let's do this. As you can see, we don't find any passwords as the script reported. So that rules out a bunch of things before even we can get to the next step of actually analyzing the potential privilege escalation vectors. So let's make a note here of that and move on. So I know that the system is vulnerable because I found something else that could point us towards towards the privilege escalation path on this machine, which is this. So what I did when I first solved the machine was looking at all of these CVEs and taking a look on how to exploit all of that. So one is this, and it had linked to this, where it says, okay, we need it's a P vector from user to system, and we need to create a fake DLL, and we have the files here. So as you can see, we need to be actually compiling these files, then form an exploit. So that's a path of highest resistance for me, because at the time of the exam, I really don't want to be troubleshooting Visual Studio errors. So I moved on and looked at other ones, but unfortunately, all of them had some kind of compiling work that needs to be done, or they did not have a clear method for exploitation. So again, we have the same exploits that were reported above, but on a different CV because they are exploiting a different weakness, but on the same service. All of that which required you to actually uh, compile the exploits. So again, taking a look here, we have Visual Studio project files. So without wasting much time of yours, I will just say and what are the ones that don't work. So a bunch of these here did not work because of the reasons that I just mentioned. But that shouldn't actually make you not to look at those in your exam, because if that's your last resort, that's probably something you'd want to do. I will have another video made on how to compile exploits using Visual Studio so that you can pre-compile a bunch of them for maybe popular versions like 2019, 2016, and have that on your machine prior to the time of the exam. So let's go and look at this one here and see what is that. So copy this link and paste it here. And it says it has HHUPD exe, and it doesn't give much information. So let's search Google on what this exploit is. I always prefer some good write-ups like Rapid7. So it just says an elevation of privilege vulnerability exists in Windows certificate dialog when it does not properly enforce privileges. And so it has to do something with Windows certificate dialog. And we also saw that it was using this because, my bad. So it was using this executable that it's exploiting there and by doing a bunch of steps. So before jumping in and downloading that executable, we found something on our desktop, which is HHUPD, and we have the same name here, HHUPD. So looks like this was the intended path of privilege escalation for this machine. So let's quickly see how this was exploited. So I guess we can go back and yeah, so let's take a look. And okay, it's running it. And it's clicking on the link to the certificate, opening the Internet Explorer, and yeah, he's saving this page, I guess. Yep. And so upon the save, we will have a location prompted for saving the page. Oh, he better be quick on this. Yeah. So let's just see what he's doing. So yeah, as you can see, he's looking at the location and he's trying to execute the system32 command.exe, which is our command prompt. So once he does that, he will have the system shell open for us. So let's go back and try and do that on our machine here. Let's try it open, just open because we can't run it as admin. And you click on show more details and show information about publisher's certificate and click on it. And we don't see something popping up here because we are in the UAC prompt. So let's just click OK, close. But if you see here, you can see it's already opened the VeriSign page. Even though it's saying it's cannot be displayed, we can still go ahead and do save as. And here, what I'm going to do is open C, Windows, System32, and Command exe. Okay, so looks like it's only looking for these extensions. So let's just type it right here, command.exe, because we know that exists. And we potentially have a system lower shell because it's opening on System32. Oh, okay, so this did not work. So let's go back and see what we missed. So let's close this again because I guess it's because we have already had Internet Explorer process running as the wait, and I think we need to close this one. And as you can see, we have the same error that it's saying attributes are inconsistent. So let's do it again. Show more details, view publisher certificate, click on Verizon and click OK. And with that still running in the background, so let's go to settings, file, and wait for this to complete and go back, file, save as. And yeah, so now we have the error that we're supposed to be seeing, and it's saying system profile desktop is unavailable. Let's just click OK and go to C, Windows, System 32, and let's just open command.exe. As you can see, we have a shell as system this time, and we should be able to go to the users, admin, desktop, and look at the root file. So that's about it. That's how we exploit this machine blaster right here. I found this machine to be quite useful and interesting because we usually go for some straightforward ones like token impersonation, passwords and registry, but this one kind of caught us by surprise if you had not looked at the desktop upfront. So what is the case if you don't find this executable but you still find this machine vulnerable to this? I would say just try and download the executable, but we do have to make sure that the Windows Defender is not uh, flagging this one, but I don't think it will because it's a legitimate binary, but it just has some bugs in it. So that's all, guys. That's how we exploit the blaster from TryHackMe machine. I hope you enjoyed and learned something on this video. And please leave your comment and please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And please subscribe if you liked what you saw in this video. I will create more videos like this and make sure the content is useful to you as well. And with that said, this is me signing off. Until then, decrypt.